Hi everyone, this is Ramalinga Prasad Kuppa. Welcome to my channel Pharma World. Today's topic is audit preparedness as prescribed by APIC-CEFIC guidelines. Audit is an event management. A well-networked and compliant system will always successfully complete the audit. The APIC-CEFIC guide has elaborate information on the auditing procedure. Let us know about the requirements to prepare for a good outcome of the audit process. What is audit? The auditing process identifies areas for genuine improvements in the ever-increasing GMP requirements of the process. Greatest advantage of the audit is that it gives a detailed insight into the GMP practices against the approved laid down system. This is a gap analysis of practice and the requirement. Audit should not be taken as an interrogation of the auditee. It is a process to identify the gaps in practice against the requirements. So it should not be considered as a scary situation to face the audit. It should be a fact-finding activity and not a fault-finding activity. But it is in the minds of the auditee not to create a sense of suspicion in the mind that the auditor is carrying out the audit to find out the faults. Inspection is a process of assessing the compliance levels against the requirements, whereas audit is a review by industry personnel with the objective of not only monitoring compliance but also identifying areas for improvement to the benefit of the business. There is a difference between audit and inspection. Audit is checking and monitoring the system whether or not compliance is achieved as per the approved system. Inspection process is an assessment of the system compliance. Let us see the audit classifications. Internal audit or self-inspection. This is a system of inspecting the levels of compliance locally by selected team of internal experts from each department. This has to be structured to systematically provide in-depth knowledge of the effectiveness of the quality management system over the defined period of time. By its definition itself, it is carried out by internal, local competent authorities to check compliance. Honestly, we know better than the outsider about our compliance practices and attitude towards GMP. External audit. This type of audit should evaluate if the GMP compliance status of the supplier is suitable for its intended purpose against relatively unknown environments of a product or service. External audits are carried out relatively in unknown environment. So more and broader focus is required for external audits. External audits may be further classified as the following. Startup, to review the adequacy of new facilities and our manufacturing processes prior to full-scale production. This is also called as certification audit. In this, Compliance to all sections of the guideline is checked in minute detail to establish the adequacy of the compliance. This audit might take longer time of 4 or 5 days. Follow-up to monitor and ensure an adequate level of compliance is being maintained. Follow-up is surveillance audit. It is to confirm that the GMP QMS is in continuous practice. In this audit, generally few critical sections will be checked for compliance. If there were no significant deficiencies observed, it is considered as satisfactory compliance to the system. For cause performed to investigate a specific quality failure or process deviation and or to prepare for a regulatory inspection. This is a serious audit. For cause means that there could be failures, specific market complaints. It may also be carried out to check whether or not the system is still under compliance against the regulatory requirements. Let us look into the important organizational aspects. Company policy. The company policy should have demonstrable commitment by senior management to the use of auditing as a tool for continuous improvement and to ensure regulatory compliance. Organizational aspects are very important for successful completion of any compliance audit. The top management should be committed to this culture. That means if there are any deficiencies reported or noticed, even if it is not reported, it should be attended to with full commitment to make it compliant. Management should encourage the staff to report any deficiencies through several methods. It can be written suggestion or observation or a verbal observation. This helps the staff also report fearlessly if any deficiencies are noticed. Adequate resources, visible support for the timely progressing of agreed CAPA should be obvious. A vigilant team may be constituted to monitor continuously on the compliance. The team must be a combination representing the major activities and must have adequate and in-depth knowledge in understanding the content and its intent of the requirement. The team members should also have good communication skills, both verbal and written. The team should make reports frequently on CAPA management and keep the vigilance on in a dynamic process. Senior management's authorization on audits will indicate firm involvement into the audit process, effectiveness, and getting benefit out of audits. Obviously, when the top management authorizes the audit schedules, it will have more impact because top management is the ultimate authority which cannot be ignored or vetoed by anyone. Let us see how the audit programs are designed. Internal audit program. It may be a 12-month schedule encompassing all GMP functions. It should be flexible enough to accommodate any unanticipated events. Duration and frequency may be assigned on risk-based approach. Internal audit programs may be scheduled annually, making sure that all the GMP functions are checked. Based on the risk assessment, some sections may be inspected more frequently and for longer hours. External audit program. Visits by external auditors provide useful independent feedback on the effectiveness of an organization's own internal quality audit function and quality management systems. External audit is considered as a third eye. Certain things which are in routine may miss out some critical aspects. External audit observations are helpful to bridge this gap. Since it is time consuming and involves in cost, the external audits may be scheduled on need-based situations. Let us see how efficiently the external audits can be hosted. Following aspects must be looked into for external audits. While hosting an external audit, it must be taken care on the basic amenities to the auditors. They should be comfortable enough and concentrate more on the audit rather than on the uncomfortable, noisy environment. So the following should be taken care of. Adequate office space with necessary hardware like stationery, internet, printer, etc. A well-lit office space with comfortable seating arrangements and cool atmosphere should be provided as a minimum. Of course, necessary items as indicated should also be provided. Availability of the key staff and involvement of senior and our top management. This is important. The key audit handling staff must be able to communicate with the auditor with the same language the auditor speaks. Most of the time, English is used as common language for communication. In some cases, a translator may also be required. Availability of key audit documents. The audit negotiable documents must be handy to submit for review to the auditor, because if there is significant delay in providing the document, the auditor may be suspicious and may think that the specific document was not available for review. Even if you submit the document after a very long time, the auditor may not acknowledge. It may be recorded as that the requested document was not available in his final report. Escort to the auditor throughout the audit process. This is also important. The auditor should never be allowed to go without the escort for safety reasons or any other reasons. This may also lead to confusion where to go, as the auditor will be auditing relatively in an unknown atmosphere. Necessary hospitality, food, water, etc. logistics to the auditor. This should go without saying. Transportation from and to the hotel where stationed, food, etc. should be provided. Let us see the requirements of documentation for the audit. Following documents must be ready for the audit. Pre-audit documents. Old audit reports, agreed corrective actions, internal minutes, memos, product specific information, example chemical synthesis, internal company directives are a few to mention as pre-audit information that should be provided to the auditor. Pre-audit questionnaire. general information about the company, quality related information, product related information, CGMP related information, and any other specific information the auditor may know should be provided as checklist. APIC-CEFIC Auditing Guideline Annexure 1 Pre-Audit Questionnaire gives elaborate information on these items. Audit Plan. This is audit plan that gives a general overview of the audit units, the frequency in which the audits ought to be audited. Audit schedule, fixed dates at which the audit will take place for a predefined time frame should be assigned on mutually agreed terms. Letter announcing or requesting the audit. The manufacturer should send an invitation for carrying out the audit. Audit agenda. An agenda is agreed between auditors and the auditee. Defining the topics to be focused should be in place. Secrecy agreement. This is important. Process sensitive documents may be reviewed by the auditor. The auditor must give a non-disclosure agreement that the data will not be used anywhere without written permission of the manufacturer. Let us see how the audit is managed effectively. The following steps are very important to manage the audit. Introduction. Brief introduction is necessary on either side to know about each other. Pre-audit information. A copy of the pre-audit information submitted to the auditor must be available. Audit preparation. The agenda may be disclosed across the table and decide on the action plan of the audit. Provision may be made to accommodate any minor changes in the agenda during the audit. Performing the audit. As agreed in the agenda, the audit may be performed. The audit must be a fact-finding mission and not a fault-finding mission. The auditee should feel comfortable that the observation made is for the improvement of the system and not otherwise. Auditee will be open if the audit is a fact-finding mode and not fault-finding mode. Reference numbers of the guideline, for example, ICH Q7 for APIs, 21 CFR Part 211 sections for dosage forms must be mentioned for each observation. Reporting the audit observations and auditee response. When writing the audit report, it might be useful to involve the auditee. Most often, this is done by sending the auditee, whenever the draft audit report is ready, to check factual accuracy and requesting the auditee to respond. The corrective action plan for each observation should be submitted to the auditor within the period agreed by both parties, proposing corrective actions, responsibilities, and timeframes. Follow-up on remedial actions. It is the responsibility of the auditee to comply to the observations in a comprehensive manner and send the compliance report to the auditor. The auditor may close out the audit if CAPA submitted is adequate. The auditor may review the compliance of these observations in the next opportunity to audit the facility. Let us see the content of the audit. All the major areas the audit should focus on are production, laboratories, both quality control and in-process control, storage, raw materials, intermediates, APIs and packaging materials, transportation and distribution, engineering and maintenance, development and quality assurance. All these areas must be inspected thoroughly to check for the compliance. The audit should use the checklist only as aid memoir. There should be leading questions for each observation. The audit should be conducted against a GMP QMS checklist. The checklist could be made using ICH Q7 for APIs and 21 CFR Part 211 or Utralex Volume 4 Part 1 for drug products and Part 2 for APIs. The content of Part 2 and ICH Q7 is almost same. The checklist should be used as aid memoir only. The aid memoir should be a prompt to look into the peripheral areas of the requirement. The query should be descriptive and not yes or no type. As explained, the question should lead to give an answer and not a simple yes or no answer. The descriptive response will give very good insight into the exact practice against the requirement or the SOP. Observations made during an audit should be laid down in writing. It is important to make personal notes on the observations made by the auditor. During the audit, the auditor notes down the observations with reference to the SOP or guideline. At the same time, each section representative should make a note by themselves on the observations made by the auditor. This will help the auditee to be on the same page with the auditor. There is some chance that the issued audit report can lead to a misunderstanding and disturbances at the side of the auditees. This should be clarified at the closing meeting. This is important. When there is a conflict on the observations made by the auditor and understood differently by the auditee, it should be clarified and relooked into the issue to agree mutually. The observations may be classified as critical, major, minor, or recommendation depending upon the seriousness or impact on the deficiency observed. Critical could be a disastrous situation where there is a potential breakdown of the system. Major may be for serious quality impacting situations. Minor is when there is no significant impact on the quality of the output. Recommendation is only a suggestion which may be considered in due course. Let us see the aspects of audit closeout. When writing the audit report, it is useful to involve the auditee to clarify and relook into the aspect of observations made. This would help for mutual agreement on the observations made between the auditor and the auditee. A detailed report should be made with reference to the guideline points for observations made, example ICH Q7. This is important. Relevant guideline numbers should be put in the brackets. ICH Q7 is one example. Any guideline which was used for auditing is also acceptable. There should be timeline within which the report be sent to the auditee. This is the responsibility of the auditor. He should commit that within so and so period the report would be sent. The auditee should be able to respond to the audit report within the agreed timeline with the objective evidence. Since the observations are already known in the closing meeting itself, it is recommended to initiate drafting the response along with objective evidence to meet the timeline agreed upon with the auditor. Let us look into other important aspects of the audit process. It is important to have an auditor with appropriate training, experience and education and background. This is important. The auditor should have adequate expertise, knowledge, and be able to communicate the observation point effectively to the auditee. They should be flexible with social competence and have good communication skills to clearly record the observation made without any ambiguity. This is very important. The auditee should consider the auditor as a person who will review the practicing system for the benefit and improvement of the system and not as a scary monster. I hope that this information on the auditing process is useful to you. Try to understand the content and its intent for successful outcome. Thanks for watching. For more videos, please do subscribe, like and share. Also, please leave a message in the comments box for any further support. Thank you.